We talked about it. We kind of, went back and forth on it, in the opening before we got to our warm-ups. The Epstein fiasco, let's call it, has been absolute foobar, snafu, whatever you want to call it, for Republicans, for the Trump administration, all because of Bunny Bondi. And Trump doubled down. He's not getting rid of her because apparently she's a blonde, and Trump can't get her a woman. If it was a guy, he would have fired him like 20 minutes in. But he's like, Bondi, I think you're good looking, so you're gonna stay. That's what's gonna happen. Women failing upwards. But the things they are doing now, the Republican, the administration, they're talking about like, we're going after Comey, we're going after this, we're doing all this, we're flooding the zone. The sanctuary cities, Tom Homan's out there running around talking about we're flooding the zone in the sanctuary cities, we're doing all this stuff. You got Trump over the weekend talking about we're going to change the name of I'm going to hold the funding of the Washington football stadium until they change it from Commanders to Redskins, and let's change the name of the Guardians back to the Indians, which I actually don't think. I think the Cleveland Guardians is actually not a bad name. The Washington Commanders is stupid. But if like the Florida Seminoles can be them, if the Atlanta Braves can exist, if some of these can, then all of them can, right? If some of them can, all of them can. But now, today, we'll release FBI records on MLK, on the assassination of MLK. Here we go. Even though the family of MLK is like, don't do that, please. They're like, do it anyway. They need to get off of Epstein. And they can't, because they have Streisand effect Epstein to such a degree. That's all people want. That's it. Because it's becoming, why aren't you releasing it? Now, they tried to get around this Friday, and Trump was like, we're gonna petition for the grand jury testimony. Pam Bodden's like, I'm gonna do it. And then Saturday they did it. And now we wait to see if the court will approve it, which is the big thing, the court, if it even approves it. But this whole thing, this thing just like changes stuff all the time, is because they fumbled the ball on the Epstein list. It was an unforced error, and now they cannot get away from it, no matter what they do. And I'm telling you, I wish Michael was here, because the thing that's going to happen, it's going to have to be some kind of war in the fall. It's going to have to be. It's the only thing that can get people's attention off the Epstein list. And it does go to the fact that people in the administration actually believed what the Democrats were saying, that the MAGA movement is a cult, that it's some kind of, whatever Trump says, we listen to, MAGA, we're a bunch of MAGA zombies. And that is not the case, because Trump has come out several times telling people to shut up, get over it, and move on. And yet they're still throwing stuff at the wall, trying to get anything and everything to catch some kind of momentum to get off of the Epstein story. And this is the latest one today. Trump administration releases FBI records on MLK Jr.'s assassination. So the director of national intelligence, intelligence bunny Tulsi Gabbard, on Monday announced the release of 230,000 files related to the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. Today, after nearly 60 years of questions surrounding the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., we are releasing 230,000 MLK assassination files, available now at blah, blah, blah. Gabbard wrote on X. The documents include details about the FBI's investigation into the assassination of MLK, discussion of potential leads, internal memos, information about James Earl Ray's former cellmate, blah, blah, blah. Whatever they can do. Of course, That's also not going to be a great thing because a lot of people don't know that MLK was a womanizer. That MLK actually didn't write his speeches. There's a lot of stuff. The hagiography of Martin Luther King Jr. is way different, which is most people, is way different than the historical fact. All of our people that are revered in history here in these United States, they're all people, and they all had good things and bad things about them. And of course, the black community is like, whoa, 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 don't do that. don't do that. Don't release any of this stuff on MLK, because there was a lot of things that people don't know outside. And I actually used to tell my students when I was teaching, like, listen, MLK did he did some great things, but also he was a womanizer. Also, he was kind of a little bit of a drinker. He was all of these other things. And it really does chip away at what happened or his eventual death and sainthood. And so it's very interesting to learn. For somebody like me who I have a history degree, that doesn't mean anything. I'm a dude, which means most guys are just historians. There's a lot of stuff that you would need to know about it. And really, yes, Tulsi Gabbard's fine. I don't really care. She's the direct, she's DNI, whatever. She seems to be at least competent in her role, which I have to say is a pretty big deal because Dan Bongino hasn't quit yet. Dan Bongino and Kash Patel have proven to be completely inept because they've been neutered by the Epstein thing. Pam Bondi's been neutered by this Epstein thing. RFK is just kind of sitting there. I gotta get these guys out of the food, but he's also approving vaccines. Tulsi, the DNI position, is pretty easy. And this is like, all right, we'll release some files. We'll release these 230,000 documents. Go ahead and do it. And look through them. Now, will anything come of this? Yeah, you might get a couple of stories here and there, but nobody in the conservative space is going to do a deep dive like they did after the JFK. Remember when the JFK files were dropped and you had like Benny Johnson, you had all these people doing like deep dives and they were going through, this is the stuff we've learned about Nick Sodor in between kissing Trump's butt. It was like, oh my gosh, did you see this? Did you read this? Blah, 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 blah. Nobody's going to pay much attention to this. Oh yeah, Lou, in Memphis, he is 100% a saint. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's a saint in every city. And, he's used by both sides of the aisle like every historical figure. Everybody ignores his weaknesses and everybody embraces his talking points, depending on what they're trying to push. So, is this a big deal? Not really. Is it anything that will one thing will be certain. This will not change the conversation around Epstein. It won't. People are still talking about it. Every time Pam Bondi tweets something, everybody goes, where's the Epstein files? Every time she goes on Fox News, where are the Epstein files? Every time Dan Bongino comes out in the tightest shirt possible, where's the Epstein files, bro? Every time Kash shows up, where's the Epstein files, bro? Where is this stuff? And this is a nice attempt to try and change the field. But I think Lou said it earlier in the show. It's all a distraction. And it's a poor attempt at a distraction. But it is a distraction nevertheless. So I don't think anything big is going to come out of the the MLK files. The only thing that everybody can agree on is this is another desperation move by the administration to try and change the subject. Yeah, you have St. George Floyd as well. Yeah, of course, Lou brings up a point that the family is like, can we just make sure we look at this stuff in a historical context? Because they're potentially going to lose tons of money too. People visiting his home and all these other kinds of stuff, and books that are written about him, and movies that are written, blah, 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 all these kinds of things. Because that's really what it is when somebody's dead, whether it's Johnny Cash, MLK, JFK, any historical figure. It's always the family. Elvis, they're always the family that's in control of the estate. And I'm sorry to make this the most I hate to be the materialistic weasel of the internet, but it's all about how can we preserve his legacy in the most positive light possible so people can continue to write books. They need permission to write books or do movies or come to his home and look at his stuff and buy shirts and all of, how are they going to continue to milk this asset? Because that's what that person becomes in the end. Now they could love him to death, and he's still a financial asset. The two aren't separate, but it is in the end that bit of information.